Crank up the volume and get ready for real-world bird hunting by listening to the Wingmen podcast by Eastmans. Now your host, Todd Helms.
Hey guys, this episode of the Wingmen podcast is brought to you by High Mountain Seasonings. The folks down at High Mountain Seasonings in Riverton, Wyoming have had my business since before I started working at Eastmans and way before Wingmen was even an idea in my head. I've been making homemade jerky and sausage and you name it, snack and sticks with their kits for a really, really long time. Having the pleasure a couple years ago to go down and take a factory tour and film that and do a duck hunt with one of the guys from the company, Brian Tucker, was a pleasure. They have such a cool operation down there in Riverton, Wyoming, and to think that their product from little old Riverton spreads out all over the country and into Canada is mind-blowing. I know they do business internationally as well, but it's incredible to me. I can go in so many different places, from the local grocery store to any of the big box sporting goods stores, and find that product. I can go in, I can grab a box, I can take it home, and I can, within 48 hours or 72 hours, I can have some of the best goose jerky known to man. I can put that on a plate, and you wouldn't know it's goose. I mean, a lot of guys be like, wow, this is amazing venison jerky. And it's like, hey, thanks. Yeah, you're eating goose. Like, what? This is goose? Thank you, High Mountain Seasonings. It's not just jerky kits, though, that those guys do. They have a whole ton of products. So I would recommend that you go over to highmountainjerky.com and check out the full assortment of products that they've got down there in Riverton, Wyoming. All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Wingmen podcast. Back on today is the man, the myth, the legend, Josh Lancaster of Red Flats Retrievers. Josh and I were out working dogs this morning, but he's kind of going to be checking his phone while we're doing this because his dog girl is about ready to pop with a litter. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about puppies because everybody likes puppies, right?
Oh, for sure.
Well, let's revisit, before we jump into the whole puppy thing, I want to talk about, what it's like to start a kennel, to get all this stuff rolling. You're busting constantly. And I appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me and do this one. But you and I had an awesome training session this morning.
Oh, man, it was phenomenal. Not just with Hondo, but to see the progress of Jasper.
So let's give them some context about Jasper.
For sure. So Jasper's 13 months old. He is my future stud for the kennel. And he comes out of a breeder in Virginia. Very good bloodline. Both parents are titled, and their parents are titled. And they're actually imported from the UK, which is the British line that me and Todd really, really like. But his potential that I'm seeing at 13 months old, I'm just pumped.
You should be.
You
should be. He is hands down the steadiest Labrador at 13 months. I'm going to add one more caveat. A male Labrador at 13 months. I've seen some females that were pretty rock solid when they were little, but males are a little squirrelier. They're kind of like, adolescent boys or prepubescent boys. They're just all over the map, right?
Yes, 100%.
And I went through that with Hondo, went through it with Mackinac. But Jasper is the steadiest young male dog I've ever seen.
Yeah.
We ran a drill this morning, and you had the launcher.
Yep.
And we were launching single marks, just working on single mark steadiness. We worked on water this morning. And Jasper's figuring out the water game, which is okay.
That's
okay.
Sure.
He'll get it. I mean, I shouldn't say it's not like he doesn't have it. He's just not smooth yet.
Correct. He's got the puppy splash.
And that's okay. He'll get there. So we were doing single marks, working on steadiness with both dogs, and then we kind of worked up into some other things. And there was at one point we closed it out with a ladder drill that Hondo ran because Jasper's not there yet.
Correct.
And we didn't think about this at the time, at least I didn't, that I was going to run the ladder drill. We ran the ladder drill right across Jasper's face, man, right across the bow.
Yep.
And
when I walked away to drop the bumpers off, I'm like, this is going to be great or this is going to be really bad.
Went awesome.
It did.
It went awesome. Jasper literally sat there. I sent Hondo on the first bumper, which he overran. How'd that work? He overran the first two and grabbed the third one.
Yep.
And then he went back, got the first one, then got the second one, then he got the long bumper, the fourth one. And I was pleased with the way he did that.
Yep.
But what was remarkable about that was Jasper.
And, the training of dogs, the honoring, you mentioned it while we were training, of having a dog that is more trained with a pup. I mean, some people say you can't train a dog with another dog. You seeing a dog, that first bird we launched, Jasper would not get it. It was too far.
He could see it. He marked it's flat, calm water. It's not like he can't see the bumper out there, but he would not go.
Correct.
He jump in the water and he kind of, And I said, you want Hondo to get it?
Yep.
You want him to watch one? Because you hear that all the time.
Yep.
They don't learn from other dogs. They don't learn from other dogs. And anybody that's had, let me back that up. Having two dogs in the house, their personalities are different, but they do pick up on things from each other.
Yes.
That was a classic example this morning.
Yep.
Jasper wouldn't go. You sat him at heel. I lined a Hondo and sent him. We did it the very next one. Jasper went out and got.
Exactly. One of my training tools that I use with Dora, she finished. She could be a finished dog, but there's more that I could do with her. But the coolest thing is with these puppies, with Jasper and Quinn, I'm using Dora the whole time. I'll place her on a spot, I'll get one or the other. And to use them, if they aren't successful, to make it successful.
So I never taught Mackinac place.
Okay. Yeah.
Never taught him place. And that was one of the things that using the Cornerstone program, we talked about that in the last episode. There were things about that program that overall I think it's a great program.
Yep.
There were specific things in there that were light bulbs for me.
Yeah.
Treat training, place training, crate training in the way that they had me do it in that program fundamentally changed the way I will train every dog I have from now on for the better.
Yeah.
I never place trained Mackinac. I would just lie down, stay. It's a form of place.
It is.
But he doesn't have I can't say place and he goes to a spot and stays there. Now, Mackinac learned through repetition in the hunting, especially in hunting in the same places over time, that there was a spot I wanted him to sit and he'd just automatically go there. But it was more than, it wasn't place.
Yep.
He learned that kind of over time. If I wanted him to be on his bed, I'm like, get on your bed. So it was kind of there, but it wasn't. And with Hondo, training place was, it's one of the first things I did.
Yep.
And Mackinac learned, even at 11, he was 10 years old at that time. Even at 10 years old, he learned place.
Because
I didn't teach him.
Yeah.
But I could say place, and both of them will go to their dog cots now.
Yeah.
Mac fights me on a little bit because he's 12 years old. He's like, I don't want to lay in that dog cot. But
no. And it's, starting off, having that dog that, for Dora, I tell her to place, I just point. I don't have to
I can do the same thing.
Snap my finger or whatever. I can point place.
Yep.
And then when the puppies see that, it's no different with us as humans. If I'm struggling with a goose call and I hear you run it and I'm like, oh, I'm not doing one piece. It's no different in learning and teaching.
Yeah.
And that's where I think a lot of us struggle. So you made a comment today with Jasper of where you would be if you were in my shoes, of frustration of how he was acting. And I think back on that of when I was younger, more hot-headed and tempered than I am now. And the dog knows what he's supposed to do in certain aspects. But at the end of the day, it's my training that I've done with him.
Right.
So I can't be mad at him. I need to be mad at myself.
I see that in my children where there's things I'm like, why can't you do this? And then I think, okay, because dad's not taking enough time playing basketball or
Exactly.
throwing a baseball in the backyard or doing those things. I'm not taking the time, for whatever reason. Life's busy. Everybody's got a busy life, but you have to be intentional.
Exactly.
And so much of life in general is being intentional. And I think when you throw dog training in with a goal in mind, I have, and I know you have goals in mind for our dogs.
Yep.
Matt Hondo's not where I want him yet.
Yeah.
He's getting closer every day.
Exactly.
The ladder drills are getting easier. He's getting sharper. There's things he's dialed on, and there's other things I'm like, okay. And I think for a lot of folks, if I'd swapped Hondo and Mackinac in order, I would be ecstatic at where Hondo is right now.
Oh,
at that point all I wanted was a dog that'd go out and get ducks, flush birds, retrieve them. I didn't want a dog that was. I didn't have as high of expectations, I guess, is a good way of putting it. And I beat my head against the wall with Mackinac because we were just talking about this before the podcast. Some dogs are smart, some dogs are, and Mackinac's ridiculously smart, kind of like Dara.
Yep.
They think through things, and they kind of fight you a little bit on things because they've got, no, I want to do it like this in their head. And you're going, no, this is how I want it to be. I would have been way happy. I'd have been super happier with where Hondo is now 10 years ago than I am now. And I'm very happy with him. I love that dog, and I love where he is, and we worked hard to get there. But I see other things that I'm like, okay, I want to do this, and I want to do this. That's why we're running ladder drills, because it's like I want to be able to send him out of a goose pit in Colorado.
Yep.
And he just goes.
One of the things with the ladder drill that I hope we can do once some of the agriculture gets cut is we can go out into a field.
Where they can't see the bumpers.
They can't see the bumpers, and we make them back, and just do ladder drill after ladder drill after ladder drill.
So I did one. I had a snafu on the river.
Okay.
Just went down 2 nights ago to just throw some fun bumpers and some single marks, mainly for exercise. Last hour of daylight, it's cooled down a little bit. The river water here is super cold.
Yes.
It's a high of 60 degrees.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You're standing in it, you can barely stand in it. It's so cold. So I don't worry too much about the dogs getting overheated and that stuff. But I still do it in the evening. And I had a bumper, just hand thrown single birds, single bumpers, and I threw one completely across the river, and it landed in some brush in a very difficult spot. Yep. There's a back eddy. Dogs got to fight the water the whole way. It's a cliff face. There's a lot of things involved with it. So it makes it for a single mark hand thrown bumper. It's about as tough as you can make it, right? And I didn't intentionally do it. And my wife, I had the wife and kids with me, and my wife, Grace, said, well, that bumper's gone. And I said, no, worst case, I'll send him, but worst case scenario, I'll have to, walk across the bridge and do a little trespass on the private and get my bumper back. And lo and behold, I sent that dog. And he got over there, and there's an irrigation return right there, so there's a waterfall. It's like 30 feet that falls into the river, and it's splashing in Hondo's. You don't want to get close to that, but the bumper's pretty close to it. And it's back eddy, and he's fighting. He's looking, and I back, because I need him to get against that cliff out of the current.
Yep.
Then he can swim up to where he can touch and get out and climb up and get the bumper. Well, eventually, felt like forever. It was probably 30 seconds. He just went to the other bank. Got there, and then as soon as his feet hit the bank, I could tell he could smell the bumper.
Yeah.
And he started hunting, and he found it easily.
Yep.
And my wife is standing there just dumbfounded.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
She's like, I thought that bumper was gone.
Yeah.
I thought, well, that's why you work on those blind retrieves.
Exactly.
Because it's no different than dropping a goose or a duck on the other side of the river.
No.
Or sailing one out through the barley, and it's laying out there, and the dog's got to hunt for it.
Yep.
That's why we do this stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, I love the little training sessions we do. I'd do it every day if my schedule allowed.
Me and you both.
But it's just life.
Yeah. No, for sure.
But back to the puppies.
Yeah.
You're building red flash retrievers, and right now,
Yep. Any moment.
literally,
Any moment.
you showed me a picture, and Dara's about ready to pop.
Yes, she is. So I guess from the startup of breeding, trying to find a good line.
Yeah.
Not that anything wrong with backyard bred, but it's for what I'm trying to accomplish. I'm trying to get really good bloodlines.
It goes back into what we were talking about in the very first episode,
Exactly.
where there's genetics you want.
Yep.
There's, you need eyes, you need hips, you need elbows, you need all those things.
For clearance.
And you don't want to breed flaws and defects
No.
into the Labrador line.
It's exactly what I said on the last episode, making the breed better.
Right.
So I did my research, found a awesome stud, and they bred, and she's on her 63rd day today, I believe it is. But it's getting the right dog. It's not just, and I hate to say, you pay for what you get for a stud fee. I mean, if you have a very good dog, you're going to pay more.
It's like anything, dude. You get what you pay for.
Exactly.
I don't care if it's dogs, horses, firearms,
Yeah.
Well, vehicles are exorbitant.
Yeah,
there's a handful of things, but contract work.
Oh yeah, you pay what you get for.
You get what you pay for.
So so that process of finding a stud out here in Wyoming, one is difficult.
Yeah.
There's not a ton of British labs out here. So I was looking across the U.S. trying to find a stud that I could get sticks from, and everybody was kind of hemming and hawing. I'm like, okay, well, for one, and not that I'm going to make this into a sermon, but I lifted it up to God and how it presented itself. This gentleman from Alabama, just moved to Wyoming, and we ran into each other, started talking dogs.
That's a God thing.
And how, exactly, it's no different with our first litter with Dara and Hondo. That's a God thing.
There's things that I would do a lot different if we did it again. It was
Well,
kind of like we dove in
head first,
and we did some things that we do differently next time.
100%. And but that's the coolest thing about learning, though. Sometimes we have to learn the hard way.
Yep.
And that's
me especially.
We all do.
Thick Pollock head. Keep banging it against the wall. Maybe something will change.
One day. But it's when after I lifted up to God, it was just like bam. Here comes Greg, and we just a gentleman actually told me that met him also. He said that I would, if he could see me 40 years later.
Oh, really?
I'm Greg, which is just a awesome thing. He's a God-fearing man also, and just the encouragement of that. We are like-minded in dogs. He has a great line imported from the UK, so True Brit, and that just is a pump to me because that's what I'm wanting.
That's
is
what you want.
The True Brit. And so
True Brit,
British,
not True Grit.
Yeah, Brit.
Don't mistake them.
Sorry for my southern.
There is a strong John Wayne thread that runs through my life, but true British labs.
Yep. So the breeding process, just depending on, so for Dara, when they come into season, it's normally, she bred on the 10th day of cycle. Now, every dog can be different. It could be the 3rd day or the 4th.
Sure.
She comes in later when she is receptive. So just kind of, and then.
We learned that with Hondo.
We sure did. And
put them together and nothing happened forever. And then you sent me a picture and they're hooked up. And I went, well, I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah. 60 days later. And, the big thing about breeding, so you schedule 60 days from the last day of breeding is what you kind of calculate.
Sure.
And so today it's 58 to 65 days, 64 days. Everybody's got their own opinion of when they're going to have puppies. But she is nesting. She is keeping me up throughout the night. So what I say with having puppies is it's very similar, I would say. I don't have my own kids, but I would say it's very similar of not sleeping a whole lot when that time is coming. Or
the difference is you can sleep train babies.
Yes.
You can't sleep train puppies.
No.
Kinda. But not when they're little tiny things.
Correct. You hear a little yelp, and there you go. You got to get going and checking on things. But, it's with me with having one dog, and this is the startup of Red Flats Retrievers, it's challenging because it's if something happens with this litter, well, it's a step back.
Yep.
So trying to be very cautious.
Yeah,
and,
rightfully so, man. Nothing's guaranteed, you know.
And we may lose the whole litter. I hope not.
But I doubt it.
You never know.
But
I mean, complications happen.
Yep.
But, so 10 weeks after she has the puppies, they'll be starting to go home to their people. And, one of the coolest things about puppies is from day one, you can't really tell a whole lot about
walk us
puppies.
through the process, because there's a lot. This episode, I want to focus completely on puppies.
Okay.
From the whelping process, the birthing and the whelping process that you go through as the breeder.
Yep.
And this is more so you folks out there looking for a dog. Shameless plug for Josh, because he won't do it himself. If you want a great dog, get a hold of Josh. Get a hold of me. I'll hook you up with him. You can find Red Flats Retrievers on social media. Get a hold of him. He's going to have a litter ready to go in about 8 weeks, give or take. Yep. So don't miss out. I mean, you got the first litter we did.
Yep.
Those all went pretty quick.
Went very quickly, and everybody is ecstatic.
Yep.
And I'm ecstatic to see what their potential is this year.
I'm hearing a lot of buzz around those dogs. We know a lot of the people that got them.
Exactly.
And everybody that I know that has one is like, dude, these dogs are amazing.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, that's what happens when you have two awesome parents.
Exactly. And I mean, also, any dog, doesn't matter if it's a mutt or if it's a purebred, its potential is there.
Right.
But the being trained is a totally different aspect.
So
we're going back to puppies. We're not going to training.
Yeah. No.
But so day one of born, I try to be there with the female. Now, does that always happen with normal day life and schedules?
No, you got to work and you got other things.
Exactly. So, I try to assist, not as in pulling the puppies out, but giving her the best chance for the dogs.
Just a good idea to be there.
Yes, and as you know with Dara, she's my person, or I'm her person, big time. Like, she does not like it when I'm not there, and so when I get home after we're done here, I'll be sitting next to her most of the day. But no, so when puppies start coming, first thing you want to do is make sure their airway is clear. Make sure that they're breathing correctly, and then immediately I like to get them latched.
So do you have a little, like a sucker?
I do. It's a little blue.
Same thing they use for babies, man.
Exactly.
Stick it in their nostrils, stick it in their mouth, suck that goop out.
Exactly. Same exact scenario, and then I try to, everybody's different when it comes to the female eating the embryo and sac. For me, she gets 2. And then she's done. If she eats over that, she's going to end up having a mess.
She's going to make a mess.
She's going to make a mess. Her stomach's not going to be able to take all that protein.
Right.
But I want her to get a little bit of protein.
Yeah.
Which, the last 3 weeks, I've been giving her no sugar added original yogurt. And then at dinner, she gets cottage cheese. And that is just to give her more protein. And to help her build for the puppies. I mean, because all the food she's eating is just going straight to the pups.
Yeah, at this point, they're just little leeches.
Exactly.
They're like little parasites.
Yes.
It's I don't want to call babies and puppies parasites, but honestly, it's a similar relationship. It's not a symbiotic relationship.
No.
It is definitely a give and take relationship. It's interesting. I was going to ask you about, the afterbirth, basically. If you let her eat at all, or what you do with that. One thing I was not prepared for when my wife and I had kids was when the placenta was removed. Doctor looked at us and looked at my wife and said, "Would you like to save this?" And I'm thinking, what are you going to save it for? Well, then, come to find out, there are women out there that will eat their placenta after they give birth. obviously not raw, but there's companies that'll turn it into pills.
Yeah.
And I kind of looked at my wife and I'm like, that is totally your call. That is not, I don't need it.
Yeah.
Obviously. But, you know, it's one of those things where she kind of was like, no, I don't think so.
There's
I think
benefits,
I'm good.
and
Right. And so we started digging into it.
yeah.
Just because we were curious.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of studies that say it's incredibly beneficial for the mother to consume a placenta, or in the case of a dog, the afterbirth, similar process.
Yes.
And there's companies that make pills, but the deal with the companies is you don't know whose placenta you're getting back.
Correct.
You're not necessarily getting your own placenta.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, sure, it's a pill form, it's been processed, but still.
Yeah. No.
The idea no.
So, that's my process. Billy Bob may think that they need to eat all of it. I've just seen in the past when they eat all of it, it is an absolute mess.
Your body, even a dog's body, a human's body, they can only ingest so much protein.
Yes.
It might not look like it, but I'm pretty into fitness.
Oh, yeah.
And
I don't want to scrap with you.
Well, and when I say that, I like to lift.
Oh, yeah.
I like to lift. That's my thing. It always has been. And at this point, I don't run anymore. It's hard. It hurts my knees.
Yep.
And I'm always fighting the weight battle, body weight battle. Have been since I was a young man. And I'm always heavier than I want to be. But that's neither here nor there. But one of the things that you learn over time, right now, the big thing on social media is, you got to eat a gram of protein for every pound of body weight that you have, if you want to make gains. That's a lot of protein for me.
Oh, boy.
That's 200 and almost 60 grams of protein every day. That is a lot. And what you run into is, for a guy like me that's trying to lose weight, you end up eating more calories than you should be eating because you're trying to consume so much protein.
Yeah.
There's going to be guys that are into fitness listening to this going, no, you're doing it wrong. But the point is, you can't just, this is what you should do, this is what the experts say, so this is what you're going to do. I don't care if it's a dog or your own body.
Yep.
I don't feel good when I eat over about 200 grams of protein. No. I don't feel good. I need some carbs. For me to feel good and to function properly and to just feel sharp, I'm about 175 to 200 grams of protein a day, and then top that off with moderate fat consumption and carbs. And I'm not crazy about my macros. I watch calories more than I do anything. But now, if I was a young man, when I was really in my powerlifting days, I was probably eating 1.5 times of protein, because I was drinking protein shakes like it was going out of style.
Yep.
And I was a big boy. I was a big boy, and I'm like, oof. And I don't miss those days.
No.
So it's interesting, and I remember, man, it did nasty things to my bowels. And you're in your 20s, you can handle stuff a little easier, but I can't imagine along that same lines letting her consume all that stuff, and then it's got to go somewhere. She's not going to absorb all of it.
No. And so, that's just my process that I do. And it has worked out in the past. Her past litter, and then with the other females that I've been around during their birth, I mean, it works. So we all have, every breeder, trainer, whatever, they have their way.
Right.
And not that mine's the holy grail or whatever. It's just...
Nobody's is, Josh.
No,
That's
exactly.
the thing. If you find someone who says, this is the way you do it, no other way, run.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Run. Because you're dealing
100%.
with an ego at that point, or somebody trying to make money at that point. It's like, nah, man, there's lots of ways to do a lot of different things. Now, I'm not saying there's not hard and fast rules to certain things.
Yeah.
I guarantee you're going to do some of the same things that Barton Ramsey's doing at Southern Oak, that Marty's doing down at Sporting Life, that they're doing it at Riverstone Kennels. Any of these high-end, big-name kennels that you know about and hear about, there's certain things that everybody does the same way.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like what?
No.
This episode of the Wingmen podcast is brought to you by Leupold Optics. I've been running Leupold optics for a long time on the big game side of things, and I love the performance and the quality of that brand. But when Leupold brought performance eyewear into the mix a couple of years ago, I thought I'd seen it all, but I was wrong. That performance eyewear from Leupold keeps my eyes protected. It helps me with my target acquisition with a crisp, clear sight picture. And guys, I got to be honest with you, I'm stoked to be partnered with a company like Leupold. So for all your optics needs, give Leupold a look.
I would say what everybody.
And the reason I put
you put me.
I put you on the hot seat with that. But this is for the people that are thinking about getting a puppy, looking for a puppy. What are some of the basic ground rule things that they should be looking for? And then we'll get back into the experience of whelping and different things.
So when you're asking what every kennel does, as in their obedience or
should be across the board when it comes to breeding programs, to birthing programs, whelping, across the board. When you walk in, what should you be looking for?
You should be, for breeding, it should be papers. For having the papers that are telling the genetics of the dogs, of bloodlines, where they come from, what achievements they've had. That's the first thing I look for when I'm going to a kennel, is I want to see papers. I want to see what their mom and dad did, their grandparents, their great-grandparents, and just to see the trainability of the dog. And I would think almost every trainer or breeder has that available for the people that are coming to buy dogs.
If they don't, it should be a red flag.
It should be a red flag,
yep.
Unless that's not
unless
what you're
you don't
after.
care. Right. If you don't care, my first lab, Josie, didn't matter. I didn't care.
Yeah.
I wanted a lab.
Exactly.
She looked like a lab. Her parents looked like labs.
She's
I walked in the backyard, that's a lab, And
yeah.
she was phenomenal.
Yeah.
But I was single and I had nothing but time.
Yeah. So, papers right off the rip, that would be one big thing. Then I would then go to training purposes of almost every kennel is going to have the obedience of sit, stay, come, heel, here. Those 5, that should be almost every. Now, will they be different? Yes, but the general obedience of a trainer should be pretty well the same. Sure. For not bloodlines, I'm going backwards, but with training purposes, there's so many different ways of doing things, as we're talking about Cornerstone, and then all the other books.
Everybody's got a program.
Water gun or water dog, gun dog.
There's lots of programs out there,
and so most of those programs,
every single one of them is helpful.
It is. And what I like to do, from what I have experienced, is I take pieces out of multiple ones and put them together.
Yes.
But the thing is each dog is going to be different. So for Jasper, I can lay it to him, I can raise my voice, I can do whatever. It's not going to faze him. For Quinn, I got to be soft.
Oh, Quinn's a soft dog.
And so it's just
Quinn is one of Hondo's daughters.
Yes.
She's a product of the Hondo Dara breeding that we did.
And with that, great dog, but a totally different demeanor.
Yep.
And so to realize that, and that's with Jasper today, I could have just laid into him when he wasn't paying attention and listening. But I'm trying to do it for all the dogs and pay attention, because who's our worst enemy when it comes to doing training or just life in general?
Ourselves.
And so, trying to adapt, and that's with each dog, that's what we have to do. Your next dog you have, it may not be like Hondo, may not be
Every
like
dog's different.
Mackinac. It's going to be...
Barton Ramsey and I had this exact conversation in the podcast that I did with him when I picked up Hondo 3 years ago, about this time, and he talked about that. Be like, oh man, if I could only clone Spuds.
Yeah.
I want every one of my dogs. Well, you can't.
No.
And why would you? I don't want to have the same exact dog all the time, because every dog, I loved Josie.
Yeah.
She was phenomenal. I love Mackinac. He's great. I love Hondo, and I love them all for different reasons, and it's all. I don't love all my children the same. I love them equally, as much.
Yeah.
But I don't love them the same way, because they're all different kids.
Exactly.
And it's the same with your dogs.
Exactly. So, the next step as a puppy, whelping process, basically the exact same. You know, you want to get them in a safe place, and almost every kennel will do that.
Right.
Put them in a safe place.
A good kennel.
A good kennel.
If you walk in and it's not, you need to walk out.
It's
go
another red
somewhere
flag.
else.
Yeah. You know, for me, with my kennel not complete, with it being warm, I have her in the house.
Yep.
I have her completely separated from the other dogs. She's got her safe place
You
box.
have a saint of a wife.
I
to
cannot.
allow you to whelp puppies. I mean, you go to Josh's house, he opens the door, and it's like an avalanche of canines. And I'm teasing you because it's actually very well ordered, especially for the number of dogs you have.
Yep.
But you got a lot of dogs. You're a dog guy.
Yes, I am.
And your wife's got horses. You don't have kids.
Nope.
And that helps because you have extra space.
Yep.
You don't have to keep things, the way you would run in a household with kids in it. But the fact that she lets you have puppies in the house like that,
Well, and
most women would be like, nope, in the barn, in the barn.
One of the coolest things about my wife with that, so right when we first got together dating, she's always used to tell me, I hate labs, I hate labs, I hate labs, hate labs. I'm like, okay, well, tell me why you hate labs. And so she went in depth and told me just not trainable, just obnoxious, always in your face, always licking you in the mouth. I mean, just an obnoxious, not trained lab. And I said, okay, well, I'm getting a lab. And she goes, that's fine. And I'm like, but this lab will be trained. It's not going to be running the house. We're in charge. And literally, I get Dara, I put some training on her, and Haley just melts, falls in love with this dog. And I'm like, I thought you hated labs. This is not a normal lab.
Says everyone who's been around, who's finally around a good lab. Or a well-trained lab.
Correct. And so, so that mimics just everything that we're leading up to with these puppies. Is the potential of these puppies is the exact same as Dara, as exact same as Hondo and Mac. It's the potential's there, but the person that gets these dogs has to make them to that ability.
Absolutely, man.
So the whelping process, I'll go into that more. For me, after she starts having puppies, she gets to eat two of the afterbirth, and then I immediately put the puppies on one of the teats or nipples.
Right.
One thing you really have to pay attention to, depending on how many puppies you have in a litter, because each dog is different. Normally they have up to 10, 12 teats, but say you have 15 puppies. Now, I am hoping that we don't have 15 puppies, but how big she is, she had 9 last year. We lost 2 were stillborn, and that's typical for a first litter.
Absolutely.
It's unfortunate, but you do all you can to get the puppy back.
It's life.
It's life.
Yep.
But I directly collar them with a color collar to where I can.
Yeah, you got to be able to tell them apart.
Because that litter, our past litter.
Oh my gosh.
They were.
So Josh was like dying. He's like, I got to have a yellow female. I got to have a yellow female out of this litter, or Dara's red fox.
Yes.
Fox red.
Yep.
And which is yellow.
Yes, it is.
I mean, it's yellow.
Yep.
It's just a color. It's a color variation of yellow.
Yes.
Is all it is. Every puppy was black.
not just black, but jet black.
No blazes, no white, jet black, which I love. I've said it before.
Yeah. Oh. Go ahead.
No,
go ahead. Tee it off.
All dogs want to be labs, and all labs want to be black.
So, but no, and it's preference. The red for me, with us hunting where we do in Wyoming, color hiding a dog is very difficult at times. And, in a snowbank, you got some cover for grass that you've put on the blind. That yellow and red, it just blends.
They disappear. There's no doubt about it.
It blends in,
no
and the black sticks out like a sore thumb.
Yep.
And
the brushy, people ask me that all the time. Don't they see your dog? Don't they see your dog? Don't the birds see your dog? Sometimes. It depends on how pressured the birds are.
Yep.
And if I'm really worried about it, I'll take a dog blind.
Exactly.
And I'll put them in a dog blind.
And it's like our last duck hunt we had last year. And I had Dara on the left, you had Hondo on the right side, and you had gone out. And I had her placed on a horse blanket just so she could get off the ground. And she had her neoprene vest on, camouflage, and you go, hey, can you tuck her just a little bit more? She was on a red dirt hill, and she's red, but she was sticking out a little bit.
Yep. That particular side of the blind is really bare.
Yeah.
There's no cover there.
But, I didn't see it. You didn't see it till you went out there.
Yep.
With her color, figured she was laying down at place.
She was motionless, but that was the last. That
Yes.
was the last day of duck season. Those birds were really
Educated, everything, yeah.
So we were trying to hedge our bets, but talk about a rabbit trail.
Yeah.
But that's okay. That's why these podcasts are fun. Back to the whelping process.
Yeah.
You get them latched on. Then
Get them
what?
latched on,
And why? Why do you get them latched on? Why is it so important?
to get them feeding immediately, to get the dog to find its mother. They can smell the mom can smell them, but their eyes are closed.
Yep.
So, yeah, they could be bebopping around they're not bebopping, they're scooting. But to get them connected, I'm sorry?
Wiggling.
Wriggling. Get them connected to their mom is important, because that is, if they're not going to connect, they may not get enough nutrients.
Right.
Things could be complicated. So I get them attached immediately, get them color coordinated with a collar, which the collar is a Velcro collar. It's just it's nothing special. But putting on the collar, why we do that? So day after they're born, we weigh them and try to get things so that we can track how they're doing as they are growing. And then you got a couple weeks, about 2.5, 3 weeks, then they start opening their eyes. Having the mom with the puppies. So the way my whelping pen is right now, so I have a kiddie pool. And kiddie pool is great because, one, it's cheap. If it ends up getting messed up, you can trash it and buy another one for very reasonable.
Right.
But
and let me put this in perspective too. When you say you made several comments about your kennel's not where you want it yet.
yes,
Obviously, the end goal is a building.
Taj Mahal.
Exactly, a
Yeah.
building with whelping boxes.
Correct.
Everything's dialed and set, but you got to start from somewhere.
Exactly. And I am starting from scratch.
Yeah.
And that's great in one aspect, because it will be exactly what I want it to be. Not that I'm buying somebody's kennel
Right.
and then having to recreate the wheel.
You're building it the way you want it.
Exactly. So, whelping boxes are extremely important. One, for safety for the puppies, and then also for the mom, because mom can get up, go potty, eat dinner, whatever it may be,
Yep.
and the puppies are safe.
They're not going anywhere.
They're not
They're
going
not crawling off.
Anywhere. No, they are in a safe place. And then when they get to that 2 to 3 week old, when they're open their eyes, start bebopping around a little bit, then I put a wire gate that is a full around the pen.
Yep.
Mom can get out, completely out. The puppies can run around and do whatever they want to do. But the whelping box is very important, not just for protection from other critters, as I have other dogs
Well, it
in the house.
simulates a den.
Exactly.
If you look at wild canids, whether it's a coyote, fox, wolves, they have a den.
Yep.
They're a den animal.
Exactly.
And that's where they have,
Puppies.
that's where they whelp.
Yep.
That's where they have litters.
It's this
For
morning.
a reason.
This morning when I got up, couldn't find Dara. I'd been up with her most of the night, and I'm like, walk back in the bedroom. I go, hun, where's Dara? I have no idea. And then I hear a tail. Dum, 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 dum,
Under
dum,
the bed.
dum. No, she's in the closet.
Oh, yep.
She's nesting.
Someplace
So,
dark.
it's
Someplace dark, someplace secure, someplace safe.
Exactly. So, and all that comes to play. So after the puppies have opened their eyes, start running around, that's when the start of people that have put deposits down that are wanting first, second, third pick, whatever it may
Right.
be, then they start coming and can slightly see personality.
Right.
So I won't ever forget the little red collar.
Dragon Lady.
Dragon Lady is what you and your daughter's named
Yep.
her. But, you see personalities. Quinn, me and Haley picked Quinn because she was almost identical to her mom.
Yep.
Almost.
And she is.
And she, like to a T.
Very similar personalities.
And so as they are growing, you get to see the ones that are hard charging, that are fighting to get to a teat, pushing other puppies away. Those are going to be your alphas in a way. Mm-hmm. Now, at 4 weeks old, you can't really tell if they're alpha or not, but you can see.
That's also why you get rid of them by 8 weeks old.
Exactly.
Because then they start creating definitive hierarchies that will mark that dog the rest of its days.
Exactly. So, the puppy part there, exercise for puppies. They're just sucking on mamas and getting all the nutrients they can get. When about 6 weeks, I start doing a puppy chow and milk supplement to give Dara, or the female, a break, because they're drained. I mean, it's incredible to see your dog from when they give birth to almost done of nursing. I mean, just completely depleted.
Yep.
So big thing with your female is make sure she's getting enough nutrients, enough food, keeping them to where they can provide. Yep. That is extremely important. One, for me, Dara is like my daughter. So I'm wanting her to be able to be comfortable, be happy, safe environment, but also that her health. This isn't a puppy mill. I mean,
right.
And that's nothing negative, but it's a different class.
No, there is negatives to it, and
Well,
I will just flat say that.
Okay.
If you go someplace and they're churning out hundreds of puppies a year, there's probably not the level of care or concern.
Correct. Well,
and you don't see that in the sporting dog world as much.
No, you don't. It's just
you see that in dogs that you get at Petco.
Yep.
Or pet stores, or your little Pomeranians and pugs, and that's why people have issues, genetic issues, because puppy mills are just churning out puppies for pet stores and for people to buy.
Yep, it's all about cash flow.
Putting a black eye on legitimate breeders like yourself and others.
Correct.
So yeah, I have no problem throwing puppy mills under the bus.
Well,
just
hit that one out the park.
I'll tee it up. I'll knock it out because that drives me nuts.
Yeah. Well, and I agree.
And it's across the board. I don't care what you're looking at, but yeah, you don't see that with gun dogs.
No.
Whether it's retrievers or bird dogs.
Well, and the biggest thing is right after, so 2.5 weeks after the puppies are born. Not that I'm going to put my dog through a trial test, but I'm working her, getting her back into shape. And, and that is extremely important, that her care, because they're so depleted, you have to build them. It's no different than us.
It's no different than my wife. After it was amazing to me how quickly they wanted her on her feet.
Yep.
I was like, man, you're going to lay there for I watched this. You're going to be there for like a week.
Yeah.
But no, within hours, she's up.
It's no different.
When she feels like it, she's up, and then the food starts, and they start building that body up. And my wife breastfed two of our three children. My son, we had to feed formula because there was some weird thing where he wasn't handling breast milk for some reason. Anyway, but it's amazing how similar those processes are.
Yeah.
Because you're heavily invested. Obviously, I'm heavily invested in my children, was and am, and you're heavily invested in these puppies.
Yep.
I think another red flag would be if I walk into a breeder, I'm puppy shopping, and I want to, if possible, I want to see the grounds. I want to see the process. I want to see. I'm not going to be there every day. It's like hiring a contractor to do something at your house, and then you're standing over his shoulder.
Yep.
Don't be that person.
No.
But it's okay to ask questions.
Oh, exactly.
It's okay to want to see some things.
The more questions, the better.
To a point.
Well,
but yeah.
And there's no stupid question, though.
Right. That's a good point.
There's no stupid question.
If you don't know, you don't know.
Exactly. So from this past litter, I had a gentleman that bought one of the pups, and in the initial process, he didn't have a place to keep the dog. Mm-hmm. So I was going to keep the dog, train the dog. She's 13, or no. Yeah, she's 8 weeks, so she's like 2 months old now, and him and his wife have fallen in love with this dog. Like every time they come and get her.
2 years old.
No,
not 2 months.
Yeah, two.
They were last year, so they'd be 12 months, 13 months.
Yeah, but I'm saying 2 months after they're born.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Sorry. But 2 months after they're born, I've been training, because training starts right off the rip. Mm-hmm. It's sit, come. I mean, now is it Hondo, come? No, it's
not intensive.
Yeah,
it's not intensive.
No,
right.
but it starts then.
You're laying a foundation.
Exactly.
If you want a dog to do things, you've got to start very, very soon. And so, yeah, back to that. If I'm looking for a breeder, I'm going to be looking for somebody who's the level of care is going. That's one of the first things I'm going to look
charts.
for.
It should be.
Because if I see a relationship between that breeder and their dogs, you know, it's there in spades with you. I go to your house, and your dogs are family.
Yep.
It's blatant.
Yep.
And when I went to Southern Oak Kennels, the rapport and the relationship that Barton had with every single one of those dogs, and there was a lot of dogs.
Yeah.
And they're not going to be in the house.
No.
But he's got his kennel facility, but he gets them out, and he's the center of attention. They're all looking at him. They're all revolving. It was like he was the sun, and all these dogs are planets, you know.
Yep.
It was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
And I looked at that, and I went, see, that's cool. That's somebody that cares. That's somebody that spends a lot of time with the dogs.
Exactly.
You are the exact same way.
Well, it's comical you say that. So some of these puppies have come back to me for some training, and literally they see me and they smell, and it's like, oh, I know you.
This guy. Yep.
And then bam, it's just right back to where it was when they left.
Dogs are amazing that way.
Yeah.
Mackinac spent a lot of time when he was a puppy with a good friend of mine that lives on the other side of the mountains.
Okay.
And he and I don't get to see each other as often.
Yep.
We both have young families, and we try to meet up. We picnic together in the mountains occasionally, and whenever Max sees him,
it's over.
He comes unglued. He's so happy to see Steve.
Yep.
And it's crazy. They know.
Well,
they remember. So you're building those things. You're building that foundation. You're setting that stage. How does somebody pick a puppy? Now, I did this twice. I personally picked two, and so I picked Josie, my first lab, hand-picked her out of the litter. I know how I did it. I hand-picked Hondo, but it was pretty limited choices. There was 4 pups, and he was the only black male, and it was like, I guess I'm getting that one. And it was fine.
Yeah.
It was great. He's exactly what I wanted. With Mackinac, I didn't have a choice. I had a choice, but it was between two dogs. It was between 2 puppies.
Yeah.
And I know I spent quite a bit of time with both those puppies that morning when I got there, and I chose Mackinac. But in a way, he was kind of chosen for me. Mm-hmm. A lot of breeders out there would tell you, we can pick a puppy for you, or you can do it. Honestly, I think for most folks, especially if it's their first dog, you should be letting the breeder pick the puppy for you.
Agreed.
Why?
So, one, we're with the dogs every day.
Right.
We see things out of the dog. So, the little red collar female, she did not need to go to somebody that wasn't going to use her as a hunting dog.
That dog had to go to a hunting home.
And so that's a big...
That's a dog that ends up in a shelter.
Yes.
If she goes to a non-hunting home, or somebody who doesn't have the time for her.
Correct.
Because she's going to eat them alive.
Yes.
She's and there was 2 dogs in that litter like that, red and purple.
Yep.
And they are both
on charge, ready, rocking and rolling.
Just like their dad.
And so, so that's depending on what the person is wanting.
Right.
If for me and you, we're wanting more that's got...
You and I want completely different dogs, though.
Yes.
Think about it.
We do.
And we have different dogs.
We do.
I want a dog that is... So my criteria is a dog that is got lots of heart, lots of go, big motor, but has an off switch.
Yep.
Now, a dog like that's off switch position is going to be higher than some other dogs' off switch positions.
Correct.
But I wanted a dog above everything. I wanted a dog with lots of go.
Yeah. And so that's...
And
you got it.
And I got it.
Yep.
And it's been challenging, but it's rewarding at the same time.
And that I would say Jasper and Hondo are very similar on drive level.
They are.
I would say maybe a half difference, but they have that go. So the reason I would agree with you of the breeder picks the dogs is because they just don't. Some people just don't know how to read a dog correctly. And a couple of the guys that I sold puppies to, I picked what they wanted. Mm-hmm. So for an older gentleman that I sold one to, I picked a low end, not low end,
but lower
drive.
Energy,
yes.
Lower energy dog. Because there's a huge difference too, Josh, and I see this with Mackinac. I mistook Mackinaw's intelligence for lack of drive for a long time. And I remember I was hunting with my dad, and he did a couple of things. Mackinaw did a couple of things that Dad looked at, and I was kind of like, man, I just wish he had more go. And my dad goes, Todd, you're mistaking go for intelligence for lack of go.
Yeah.
It's like he's smart, and he's thinking through situations and not just plowing full steam ahead. When I realized that, I went, oh, and then it was awesome and very beneficial for our relationship because I didn't push
pressure on him. Yeah.
I didn't put as much pressure on him. Yeah. I let him figure stuff out.
Yep.
I can't. Hondo's not dumb, but Hondo's not off the charts like Mac is for intelligence. He doesn't think things through at the level that Mackinaw does. He does, but not like that.
No, it's just a different
and
level.
And so Hondo's, I have to do the thinking.
Yeah.
And which is fine. I have to set Hondo up more for success and let his physical capabilities, which are stupid, carry the show, right? Yes. Where I would have to set Mackinaw up so physically, and I make it sound like Mac wasn't a specimen because in his day he was a specimen. He could do anything I wanted him to do, but it's just different.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
So listening to your breeder, so I'm going to go back to when I got Mackinaw. I had a deposit on a different litter. And I got there, the guy had sold all but one of the puppies out of that litter. And I'm not going to name names. This is a high-end kennel even now, but especially at that time. It's changed hands, and the guy's retired, and he was a famous dog breeder and trainer. And towards the end of his career, young guy coming from Wyoming, I don't know if he oversold, what happened. But I got there, and I had a deposit down on this other litter.
Yeah.
And he'd sold them all except for one, and it was a female. I didn't want a female. He's like, well, I got another litter over here, and this is the dog. And he did the salesman thing.
Oh, yeah.
And he sold me, which was fine. I wasn't very happy in the moment, but it
worked out.
God thing.
Yep.
And he started asking me questions. What do you want this dog to do?
Yep.
Because, I couldn't. The geographic distance was so great on the last two dogs that I bought that I couldn't spend any time with the litters.
No.
It's not like if I get one from you, I can go there every day.
Yeah, we're 15 minutes apart.
All right.
Yeah.
But it's not going to happen when you're half a country away.
Correct.
On the other side of the United States. So he starts plying me with questions.
Well, and that's,
what do you want this dog to
exactly.
do? What do you expect out of this dog? What and not just what are you going to hunt with the dog? What do you yada yada yada. My answers were dictating what puppies he was going to put in front of me,
exactly.
what product he was going to place in front of me to choose from. He went and got two little black males, the only two out of that were in the litter, and he put them in front of me. He's like, one of these two you pick, but these two dogs are going to fit what you want. One of the questions he asked was, I was a young man, I was single at the time. Are you planning on having a family? This dog is probably going to last, a decade. And I'm thinking, yeah. I got married and had 3 kids in the time frame and Mackinaw's been through the whole gamut.
Yep.
This episode of the Wingmen podcast is brought to you by Savage. Guys, a couple years ago, I started shooting a Savage Renegade shotgun and cannot tell you how impressed I have been with the product. I've put thousands of rounds through a couple of different models that I have, and they do nothing but go bang and kill birds, and that is what I need in a shotgun. The fit and performance is next level. I love how comfortable they are. I love the fact I can adjust the fit if need be. I love the fact that the gun is super tough, cycles and works in all conditions, and gotta say, they just plain kill birds. When I answered that question, he's like, are you going to have a family? You plan on having a family? And I said, yeah, I'd like to, God willing. And he said, this is the litter you want. Either of these dogs. I chose Mac because when he got the pigeon out, both the dogs kind of like, you think, oh, it's a bird dog, they should be all over it. But it's like,
puppy,
this is new.
Yeah.
But then what the really selling point was, the big old tomcat that hung around the kennels and did all the mousing, came strolling by, and the puppies were used to him, and Mackinac ran over and tackled him. And I went, that's the one I want.
Yeah,
But here's the thing, Josh. He pointed back over at the stud from the first litter that I thought I wanted, that I had the deposit on, that I thought I wanted.
Yeah.
And if I said the name, everybody that's a dog person would know the name of both the kennel, the breeder, and this dog.
Yep.
I mean, this dog is a who's who of British Labradors. And he goes, that's not the dog for you.
Yeah.
He goes, he's not. It was funny because he was the only dog in the whole kennel. 10 studs, 15 females, something like that.
Yeah.
He was the only one that wasn't bouncing around happy to see me. He was more like a German Shepherd sitting at the back of the thing just studying everything that was going on. Super intense.
Yep.
He goes, that's not a family dog.
No. And you know, it's going back to one of the gentlemen that bought one of these pups. He's an older gentleman, first dog he's ever had. And I'm like, you don't need the Ferrari.
No.
You need the Mustang. Still got go, but it's not going to run him out of house and home. You know, and that's where it is a huge benefit for the breeder to pick. But say for you get a dog from me one day, and you tell me what you want out of the dog or what you're looking for.
Yep.
Well, bam, there it is. I can tell you then, well,
You can narrow it down to like 3.
red, yellow, and pink.
Right.
Or black or
Right.
whatever puppies are. But it is extremely important. Once you've been around puppies, you know, somebody told me when I was younger, let the puppy pick you. Okay, well, that's great and dandy. But the
It's
ones
Disney.
that pick you,
That's Disney.
that's Disney. The ones that pick you are going to be the runt, going to be the, I hate to say it, not the lower end, but the less drive level. Because the ones with drive are just
They're
taking
gone.
off.
They're out there playing, doing their thing, and the ones that are
Exactly.
hanging out with you, and maybe that's the dog you want.
Well,
you know?
exactly.
My first one, Josie, I kind of let her pick me.
Yeah.
We went. I'm sitting in the backyard. I'm playing with the puppies, doing their thing, and they're all of them are all playing with you.
Yep.
But they kind of dispersed. But she'd
Coming
go
back.
play, and she kept coming back.
Yeah.
And wanted to be petted or tugging on my shoelaces, and I'm kind of like,
Well,
there's a little connection here.
so what I try to do with the puppies as they are aging, as I'm not conditioning them, but getting them running around the yard and all, is I'll make a course. I'll have a log across it. I'll have something they got to go under.
Right.
And where that level goes on their drive level, a dog that's got drive as a puppy will figure it out. You can see smarts. I mean, there's so much with a course, and you know, a course could be a stick in the middle of somewhere, and it's got to figure out how to get underneath it, around it, or whatever. But to see those puppies do that is where it's important. And who sees that more than the breeder?
You're with them every day.
Exactly. I mean, so is there times, you know, Jasper, I didn't pick Jasper. Well, I picked Jasper. He was the only yellow.
Right.
There was a black male, and I was like, no, nothing against black males, but I wanted yellows. So, bam, I got Jasper. You know, if I had to have picked, there were 2 males. One of my other friends got the other male, and he was red, like full-blown red. And I told her one day, I was like, I really, you know, I love Jasper, but just that color of Koa is the other male's name. It's like, if I could have just gotten that in Jasper, she goes, you got the better of the 2, I think. And I'm like, well, I mean,
It's not all about color.
it's not all about color.
You know,
And
it's not all about. We have these preconceived notions.
yes, we do.
Of what we want a dog to look like, what
Yep.
we want a dog to be, and sure, you can take a look at you know, studs and bitches and be like, get a pretty solid idea what those dogs are going to look like.
Yep.
I think I could put Hondo and Cedar next to each other, and you might not be able to tell them apart.
Yeah.
Barton has told me multiple times, like, dude, that dog is a clone
Mm.
of his dad. And
Well, same with Dara and her dad. I mean, you want to talk about spit and image other
Right.
than size,
Yep.
they are to
so
a
you can
T.
get an idea of
Yep.
what dogs are going to look like, but I guess the point I'm trying to make is being flexible.
Yeah. Well,
letting the person that's with the dogs all the time every day, feeding them, watering them, doing coursework, just every day you're around them. You see those emerging personalities. You see those traits, and you can help people make an informed decision.
Correct.
If it doesn't matter to you, fine, go get a puppy and do your thing.
Bonky,
and some people are like that. I'm not.
No.
I'm not.
And that's just personal preference is what that comes down to. I mean, so, I urge people to come look and play. And one, it helps the dogs. Getting them, your kids coming over, yanking on, pulling on ears and, loving
Playing
on the
with
puppies.
them. Yep.
What that does is it just conditions the dogs.
Absolutely.
As puppies, start them off. Now, you don't want them getting around other dogs until they get shots and everything.
Yeah.
Just because of safety of them catching something. I mean, it's no different than a child.
And there's been, you hear horror stories about, somebody brings a puppy into the home that there's 2 adult or 3 adult dogs in, and it gets killed.
Correct.
There gets some food aggression, and it's like when you have big kids and little kids in the house. Little kids can get hurt pretty easy.
Yes.
And it's the same with puppies. The big dog might not be trying to hurt that puppy, but they can hurt him easily.
And so
I would have to be extremely careful with Hondo.
Yeah.
And it's not because he's aggressive. That dog doesn't have a mean bone in his body.
No.
He's just fast.
Yeah.
And he's powerful and strong, and he just doesn't know.
Yep.
Where with Mackinac bringing home my youngest, JC, he, to this day, JC's his human. And it is like he was 2 or 3, he's about Hondo's age when we brought JC home, and he would not leave the crib.
Yeah. And that's the coolest thing about these dogs is, they're phenomenal in the field, but they're also phenomenal in the home. I mean, with kids, with just obedience-wise, the British line, in my opinion, is just
it's what labs are.
It's
and I'm gonna piss off some people when I say this, but the British line is what labs are supposed to be.
I agree 100%.
And I'm not throwing anybody's American dogs under the bus, because man, I've hunted over some stellar American labs.
Yep.
Stellar American labs, but by and large, what that breed was intended to be has been maintained in the British dogs. Not the English dogs. Don't get those confused. The English dogs are show dogs.
Yes.
They're the short, fat, squatty ones. Look like
got a beaver
tail. They almost look like a pit bull with that blocky head. But anyway, I'm probably making enemies when I say that. But it's my honest opinion.
Yeah, and we all have the right to our opinion, though.
100%.
So,
but you say that. Getting back to picking a puppy, doing all those things, the breeder's going to know. Breeder's going to be able to help you make an informed decision. Yes. Let them do it. It's their job.
Yep.
And then you can make a decision. Now, if you walk in someplace and somebody's just got a dog hand with here's your dog.
Yeah. I'm going to have a little bit of a red flag because I want to know more about not just that dog. I want to know the whole litter. Yes.
How did you choose this dog for me?
Exactly.
Because there are situations where I think back to we live in rural Wyoming. We're a long ways from a lot of folks.
Yep.
And there's a lot of good kennels spread across the country that are a long ways away.
Yep.
And I may not have the ability to visit and pick out a puppy. Well, I may need a breeder like Marty at Sporting Life to pick up the puppy for me based upon these are the criteria that I'm looking for. You pick. Ship it to Billings in an airplane, and I'll get it at the airport, sight unseen. You may have to do that based upon your situations. But there again, trusting your reader, but communication is huge.
Yeah, and just being informative with them. We all want to sell our brand. I mean, that's part of business. We want to sell the brand. But at the end of the day, I want to make good dogs.
Right.
And so,
and you want people to be happy.
Exactly.
It goes back to getting that dog that fits the family, that fits your personality. If you're a single dude or a single gal, you can have a lot different dog than a person with a family can.
100%.
One of the things that I absolutely love about both my dogs, but Max at the age now where he just kind of checks out.
Yeah.
He just goes and he's in a dark spot and
Hanging.
He hasn't always been that way, but
No.
he's that way now. The kids wanted to sleep in the tent in the backyard the other night. And I was like, yeah, fine, I'll set the tent up, shut the sprinklers off, set the tent up. Hondo slept by the door of that tent all night long.
Yeah.
And I didn't put him there.
No.
He just went and laid down.
Well, it's like our Border Collie. One of our dogs is a Border Collie. And last year when Dara had her litter, that Border Collie came right to the edge of the whelping box, laid down and faced the door. And she was the best, like I'd call her an aunt to the puppies.
They're a pack animal, dude.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's
I mean,
no different. It's crazy, but yeah, we're running up on another long podcast. It's almost like you and I like to talk to each other.
Just a little bit.
But I appreciate you going through this whole discourse.
Yeah.
You need to get back and be with
Yeah.
Dara. But guys, if you listen to this, if you have takeaways from this, I guess the biggest takeaway is when you're looking for a puppy, you should be looking for a breeder as well as a puppy.
Correct.
You should be talking to breeders, and if they don't answer the phone, if they don't get back to you, if they don't answer questions, red flag, move on.
Yep.
Move on. Doesn't mean they don't have great dogs. I want someone who, here's my thing. If they don't pay enough attention to you, if they won't answer the phone, and I'm not talking you call them once, they don't answer, and then they get back to you later. No, I'm talking like you can't get a hold of this person.
Yep.
That lack of attention to detail is going to spill over. That is going to be indicative of the entire operation that
Correct.
they run. And move on. You don't want a dog from that
No.
person. You want to, when you're looking for a breeder, you want to find a breeder that's communicative, that's intentional. I'm going back through all of our talking points. That has a plan, that has a process, that cares, all those things. Then you can get into, well, this is what I'm looking for.
Exactly.
And you can be as involved pretty much as you want to be in most cases.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about how to pick a puppy, but we covered that.
Yeah, we did.
And I think honestly, the more I talk about that and run through it in my own head, the more I just am like, I'm going to listen to the breeder way more than I'm going to listen to myself. They know more than I do.
Well, and that's where you've been through it, you've done it, you've seen it, and that's where you are actually not a different tier, but you're willing to sacrifice your own self to trust in the breeder.
That's come with a lot of lumps.
But you know exactly what I'm saying.
100%.
I mean, and that's hard, just because we want to be in control.
Yep.
But sometimes it's no different with our dogs. I mean, you may see something in Jasper, or I may see something in Hondo and say, "Hey, do it this way."
That's why I asked you this morning
Yeah.
about when he shakes and he groans.
Yeah,
I was like, does he do that all the time?
all the time.
And it's no big deal if he does it
Yeah.
all the time. But if it's something that he doesn't, and
Correct.
I'm noticing and you're not,
Exactly.
there could be a problem there.
There
He
could be
could have
some
a
ear-
pulled muscle. There could be some ear issues. You know, like
No,
when I go home for lunch, fluid time for Hondo,
Yep.
squirting his ears.
Exactly.
Hates it.
Oh, they all. Oh,
No, Mackinac loves it.
so that's
Mackinac
one,
will sit there and be like, oh, that feels so good. And Hondo's is like, you got to catch him.
So one last thing I want to what you just brought up with puppies. Everybody's different about cutting toenails, messing with ears.
Jasper's got dew claws. Hondo's got dew claws.
Yep.
Mackinac doesn't.
Correct. But where I want to go with that is right from day one of having a baby puppy, pick that puppy up, full with his feet, full with his ears. Starting conditioning of that is so important. And I'm sorry I missed it earlier when we were starting
you're
from
fine.
the beginning, but to condition those dogs, not just with people, but being able to lay hands on them.
So let's save that one for another
Yeah,
time
for
because
sure.
that's a whole other
Can of worms.
bag of puppies.
Yeah.
That's a whole other can of worms about the process of bringing a puppy into the home.
Correct.
Now, I do want to talk about that. There's
Yeah.
things that I have learned both from the Cornerstone program and the Gun Dog book, Water Dog book, things that I've learned through trial and error, things that you know as a professional, and things that I've done
Yeah.
that didn't work
Correct.
Things that have worked incredibly
Phenomenally
well.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a whole other podcast. Let's get you out of here.
Okay.
Get home, be with our girl, get them puppies born. Guys, again, thank you to Josh for coming on the podcast, taking time, because I know his brain is at home right now with that litter. So I really appreciate you taking the time, dude. And we'll do this again a week or two.
Yeah. Well,
We'll
thank you
figure
so
it
much
out.
for having me on.
Yep. Red Flats Retrievers, guys. Check them out on Facebook. I don't know, are you on Instagram too?
Not Instagram.
Not yet.
No.
You will be. I can drop your contact information
That'd be great.
into the description. Got a litter coming up. Probably got open deposits, I'm betting.
Yep, I got 3 deposits right now.
Okay, so there's
So-
probably gonna be some open stuff.
Yep.
If you're looking for a dog, get a hold of Josh, man. He knows what he's doing. He's got great dogs. Again, guys in the western states are an easy drive to get to you. If somebody from the south wants one, you either
make it happen.
drive out here and get it, or you can put it on a plane.
Yep.
You know,
We'll make it happen.
Lots of ways to do it. So, thanks for listening to this episode of the Wingmen podcast, guys. Stay tuned for more. I've got some other guests coming up in the next couple episodes, working on some great stuff and great content for you guys. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, we'll see you in the field.